ARDX and Envision Lead Grow. Welcome to the Balance Act Radio Show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So let's get into the interview. So, of course, as I said in the opening, you are actually the founder and CEO of ARDX, which is an award-winning healthcare management IT consulting firm whose primary focus is improving the lives of our nation's most vulnerable populations. So with having degrees and certifications in business marketing and administration, organizational development, and healthcare compliance, talk about your path, which not only led you to the healthcare field, but also what or who inspired you to combine that with a savvy business mentality.
Oh, wow. Well, my path, I would say, is definitely, it was not a direct path. My background coming out of college from business school and focusing in marketing, I landed a position in telecommunications, specifically in sales and marketing. That led me to a desire to go back to school for my master's in organizational development. And then I landed a position as a training manager in telecommunications, then moved into project management and took a leap of faith. There was a young woman who owned a consulting firm, brand new, and she had a wonderful opportunity with Kaiser Permanente to implement a claims processing system nationwide. And so she asked me if I would take the risk of leaving corporate America and assisting her as a program manager in her small startup business. And where most people would probably say no to that because that doesn't seem safe when you're leaving corporate America to go to a startup, I said yes. And that was the best thing I could have ever done because that was my introduction to healthcare. And so I took my knowledge of sales, marketing, project management, training and development, which positioned me perfectly for the opportunity as program director for her organization. So I spent about 2 or 3 years learning the ins and outs of managed care before being recruited and getting into the federal government contracting world in the healthcare space. So again, it wasn't a direct path, but every step that I took along that path, I learned. I tell the youth all the time, grow where you plant it. I learned everything I could learn every step of the way, and that allowed me to be the best when the opportunity presented itself. So along that path, I learned contracts. I learned about owning the actual project itself. I learned about business development. And here I am after owning ARDX for 12 years now. All of those experiences from the very beginning of sales and marketing, I use those experiences today to thrive as a business owner.
That is an amazing, amazing story. I mean, I think one of the things that jumped out to me about what you said is just taking that leap of faith. I think a lot of times, no matter where you are, whether you're in the corporate world or like somebody in my position, my day job is in government. And so either way, like when it comes to leaving the comforts of what you know and going to something that's an unproven or an uncertainty, it really is a matter of faith and just knowing that really you've been prepared for that path.
Absolutely.
The entire time.
That's right.
I mean, that's just an amazing story that I know a lot of people will be inspired by. Just, and we haven't even gotten all the way through the interview. It's like already, it's like, wow, that's awesome. That's so awesome. So let's actually mention, you kind of segued into it. So you mentioned the girls that you work with as a part of, as being the creator of Envision Lead Grow. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I found very interesting and impressive at the same time is that you've been able to expand beyond your home base in Norfolk, Virginia, and expand to Memphis, Baltimore, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Richmond, and Greensboro. Mm-hmm. So talk about what you and your organization saw in those areas that required the need for your presence there, mm-hmm. and also discuss some of the critical skills that Envision Lead Grow teaches young girls to prepare them for foray into entrepreneurship.
Yes, the program itself was inspired by the research I was conducting in an effort to complete my dissertation. And so in my studies, as a PhD student, I would read the literature, and I really did not see myself represented. And so one of the things that you're trained as you're working on your PhD is your purpose is to add to the body of literature. And so, my thought was, if I'm going to add to the body of literature, I'm going to make sure that I'm adding information that the next African American woman who's starting her business, she'll see herself represented in the literature. And so I was drawn to a body of work around expert performance and deliberate practice. And many people know a little bit about that theory if you read the book, The Outliers. That is the premise of that book, that 10,000 hours of performing any particular area like sports and classical music and things like that, that you can become an expert. And so this has not been applied very much at all in the business arena, and certainly not in entrepreneurship. And so I took that theory and I wondered to myself, if we were able to build the competency, the self-efficacy, the confidence of young girls in areas of high poverty, could we transform that community, that city, that state, and then the nation through the power of innovation of beautiful young middle school girls? And so that, in fact, is actually my story. I was born in public housing. I'm a product of a single mother. I am statistically what they would say would be the picture of who would not be successful. But yet I am where I am today. And so I was drawn to these cities because these cities have some of the highest childhood poverty rates in the nation. And so that's what they had in common. So I worked with the universities in each of those cities, and we introduced the girls to entrepreneurship through a 5-day immersion program where they go through 8 C's of success. And those 8 C's of success in the curriculum that I developed was based on basically my story of building this firm 12 years later. And so we trained the girls for that week-long program. Day one, they came in and they did a pitch about a business idea. We trained them, and then day 5, they did a pitch. And so just to see how their self-esteem had just increased in just that 1 week, just to see how their vocabulary changed, how they saw opportunity just based on their passion. They saw how they could actually create a business based on what their love is. And then they had really the expertise because of what they've been trained to do through the curriculum. So what I learned in that process as we traveled to those 7 locations year 1, and we saw and touched 414 girls, I saw that fundamentally it doesn't matter what the zip code is. It doesn't matter really what the race of the girl or the ethnicity of the girl. Fundamentally, girls want to be seen. Girls want to be validated. Girls just want a little bit of attention and a little bit of love. And if we don't, those who have achieved any level of success, if we don't give back, they're going to find that love and attention in some ways that's not going to actually lead them to ultimate success in life. And so that's the purpose of this program. Yes, we want to introduce them to entrepreneurship. And yes, we actually have girls with tax IDs now, and they're actually selling over $1,000 worth of product in just 1 year. That's great. But what we really want to do is show them that they're worthy, that they're never too young for vision, that their voices matter, and that they can use their power and their passion to create positive difference in their communities. So we're on year 2 now. We just concluded our second year of the immersion program, the camp. This year, instead of going to those 7 locations, we paid for and brought in all the girls to Old Dominion University for a sleepaway camp experience. And so we have another 250 girls who are involved now. And so that has been honestly the dream of my life, the love of my life, is just seeing the power that we've created within these young girls.
Yeah, and that's absolutely necessary. I mean, just even thinking beyond the Black community, because I mean, it's easy just to think just within our community, but just young girls, period. Like that whole, what you said in terms of like having the right images of young girls so that they can aspire to be whatever it is they want to be, and not necessarily have to conform to what society tells them they can only be. You know, so I definitely appreciate what you all are doing in your organization. Another question I wanted to ask you, based around Envision Lead Grow. As I understand it, your daughter, is it Anissa? Is that how she pronounces
That's
her
it,
name?
Anissa, yes.
Yes, Anissa. So is she only 21?
She's 21. That's right, she's 21.
Yes. And she's the program
Manager.
Manager?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so what I wanted to ask you, because I thought that was like really interesting. What did you see in Anissa that allowed you to trust her at such a young age to play such an important role in Envision Lead Grow? And then kind of almost like a branch off of that question, one of the things I was having a conversation with my wife recently about how teenagers and young people, they tend to look at the people that are up to 10 years younger than them. Mm-hmm. And so with Anissa being younger, talk about the importance of her presence in ELG as somebody who's younger, that is a little closer to the ages of these young girls that you're, imparting these skills upon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great questions. And I honestly, you hit on a topic that I could, go on and on about. So I'm going to try to answer this as succinctly as possible. But what did I see in Anissa? Let me just say that Anissa, I believe, came out of the womb just understanding business. And why? Because she was like attached to her mother. So she, some of my old workmates often talk about the days that I would bring Anissa to the office. And I remember she was probably 6 years old. And her favorite pastime was making bookmarks while I was working. And she would go around the office to sell people bookmarks. And so they would buy these bookmarks that she's created. We relocated from the DC area back home to the Virginia Beach area when she was about 8 years old. Shortly after that, I formed Reddix and Associates, ARDX. And so she has been with me throughout this whole experience. I mean, she spent, all of her summers in the office. She spent evenings in the office, and not just spending time in the office, but she was working. She was really getting an understanding of what business really was about. During that transition, it was a little challenging for her because at that time she was 9 years old. She was going to a new school. It was a very different environment than what she was used to, in that we lived in Prince George's County in the DC area. And so we came from Prince George's County to an area that's called Hickory in Chesapeake, and the name really, it is very different than Prince George's County. And so she went through a little bit of challenges with that. And so she would come home and she was sad about the situation, and she loved writing. So I challenged her and told her, why don't you put your words on paper? Why don't you, and if you put your words on paper and if you start something, you need to finish it. So if you write it, then I'll work with you to publish it. And I share that story with you because by the time Anissa was 12, she'd finished writing 200 and I believe it's 25 pages of a book that was published, and it's called The Magic of Friendship. So by the time Anissa was the age of the girls we're mentoring now, she was in fact an entrepreneur. She's the owner of Blue Jeans Publishing Company. She published the book. Along with the book, she had the shirts and all kinds of things, and she was doing a book tour and all of that. And so absolutely I trust her with these girls because she is really talking to them about her life experiences, and where there is a problem, there is an opportunity as an entrepreneur. So her problem of feeling peer pressure, isolation, loneliness, she wrote about that, and that became a business venture for her. Fast forward, she graduated with honors, went off to business school at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We talked about what we could do to build the community. So in fact, Anissa, the Envision Lead Grow is not just the brainchild of Angela. This is Angela and Anissa because we brainstormed together. So I absolutely trust her with this organization because it was part of her heart, and it is part of an experience of her passing the baton. On another level, we have two younger children. One is Ayla, who is 11, turning 12 very shortly, and a son, 13, Aman. And so I see how she is with her siblings. Ayla is actually a participant in the program. And so she's certainly been a mentor to Ayla, and now she's extending what she does with Ayla to all the girls in ELG.
That is, wow. more and more inspiration. I mean, for young girls, even young boys. I mean, just like hearing that story, seeing how she transformed certain experiences into something that became her own. I mean, I think that's really the goal for anybody. And it actually leads me to one of my last questions. So, of course, you all are part of DC Startup Week. You're leading the session, Superpower, Creating a Community of Power Through Entrepreneurship. And I believe Anissa, she's leading the session, the Power of Teampreneurs.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, talk a little bit about how you all got connected with DC Startup Week, and I wanted to ask you specifically about your session. What a community of power through entrepreneurship looks like.
Absolutely. So, part of the ELG model is I talked about the summer immersion program. The second part of the program is the girls are assigned mentors in their local city. And these are women that work with them for the entire year to continue to build on the plan that they have, that they started during the summer program. Once a month, we have training sessions via webinars for all the girls in all of the cities. And then the final part is the Institute. The Entrepreneur Institute we conduct at the 4-H Conference Center in May, and that is the reward for those who were successful in those 3 areas that I mentioned a little earlier. So last year we had 56 girls who had earned enough points to be able to go to the Institute. So whether they were in Memphis, Tennessee, if they were in Memphis, we flew them in. Atlanta, we flew them in. We had buses from the other locations. And they spent 2.5 days working with Fortune 100 female executives and entrepreneurs. And Rachel of Startup DC was one of our presenters. So that's how we got connected. She was so impressed with the program, and really, it's not about just the structure of the program. I'm telling you, these girls are impressive because they have fully taken advantage of every opportunity that they had to learn during the ELG program. And so we met Rachel during that program. After that, she reached out to us to say, how can we keep this relationship going? So she offered us the opportunity to do a teampreneur track within Startup DC, which I'm just so grateful just to be given this opportunity. We're going to be bringing some of our top performers, and they're actually going to be there during the presentations, and they're going to be speaking. So that's how we were introduced. As far as my session, what does it look like to build our communities? My goal is to show those in attendance. My model has really been that I believe I've been given so much as far as the success of ARDX because of how much we do in the community. I believe that we grow when we keep our hands open. You can't grow if you have your fists are closed, meaning you're not giving. And so I believe it's my responsibility because to whom much is given, much is required. I live my life that way. And honestly, it brings life to your organization when people can see how they're impacting others. That life is so much bigger than just being about themselves or just about the strict mission of the organization. It's really got to be about all of us taking what we have and building a sense of community so that we can ensure the pipeline of future employees. I can tell you that's a motivating factor for me. Not that these girls will all be entrepreneurs, but they will have an entrepreneurial mindset that then they are more valuable to the employer because they understand the power of connecting the mission of the organization with the mission they have for their life and how it can be a win-win on both sides. So that's really what I'm going to be talking about, my recipe for building this organization over the last 12 years.
Right. And what's more of the focus of this particular session?
NISA speaking specifically to the teens. And so it's how do you take who you are and where you are right now, how do you transform what you love, your passion, into an opportunity to build your future. So she's going to go through some steps and strategies that we've actually used with some of our most successful girls and help the teens to understand that. So it's great if parents come out, even if the teen can't come, the parent to come and just how can the dialogue change around the kitchen table, in the ride, in the car, when you're riding from home to school. What are the things that you can speak into your child's thinking so that they see opportunities all around them? So she's going to be speaking from that perspective.
Okay. Now, how can everybody keep in contact with you in terms of following what ARDX is doing, what Envision Lead Grow is doing? How can people connect with you on social media?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have several social media channels, but I would say they can connect with me directly on Instagram. I am Dr. Ange, A-N-G, Reddix, R-E-D-D-I-X. That's probably the best way to get to kind of see what I'm doing across all of the organizations that I work with. They can also go to Facebook, and the Facebook page is Dr. Angela Reddix, and they'll see some footage and they'll see videos and latest interviews, etc. Also some tips that we're sharing along the way.
Okay, I saw one of those videos. It looked like you get called up for a music video for
Well, yes, that's a little something we do on the side.
Yeah, I can understand that. So I definitely appreciate you so much for sharing your story, sharing your story about ARDX, about Envision Lead Grow, and just being an inspiration to my listeners. I mean, hopefully my listeners will sign up for those sessions instantly, and and they'll be inspired by your story, and especially those with young daughters or just young girls in their lives that really need that type of encouragement and that type of support.
Absolutely. And while my focus really is the girls, that's what we have the program for, I will tell you what we go through or what we discuss, it's applicable to the boys also. And so I wouldn't, if you're a listener and you have a son, come on by, because it's the same seeds of success. It's just that, the activities that we include to drive home the points, they're a little, girl friendly. So, but for the session, it's across the board. So I would say, girls and boys, come on over.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Reddix, for your time. And, I hope everything goes well with the sessions, and best wishes to you with everything with ARDX and Envision Lead Grow in the future.
All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.